Hello, hello, hello. Hello. Can anyone hear me?
Hey, Andrew, this is Sherry. I'm giving Brian a minute to get up in co host position, but how are you today?
I'm doing good. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, thanks. And I'm glad you're becoming familiar with spaces with us for the first time. I'm going to walk you through down at the bottom. You see the little magic wand? If you press on that, you can get sound effects.
Oh, hold on. I don't see the wand.
Are you on an Android or an iPhone?
I'm on an iPhone.
Oh, you should be able to see it at the very bottom of the page. There's a microphone button, and to the right of that's a little wand, and then
Hmm.
there's a people toggle, and then a emoji toggle is the one with the heart. That's an emoji toggle. Do you see the heart at the bottom of your screen?
Um, I do. I don't see the. I don't have the. Ah, maybe let me try to. Is it better if I do it on my computer?
No, no, no. It's actually better to do it on your phone.
Okay.
Yeah, for sure. But that's okay. I just was walking you through it to make you familiar with what a space does. So I see that Brian dipped out, so he must be having connecting issues. So I'm just going to go ahead and do a couple of house cleaning things before we get started. So, first, I want to thank our
Okay.
sponsor, Elevator Results. If you need a tailor made workout program due to injuries, health, or otherwise, Elevator Results can help you lose weight or gain weight. Check out their Twitter account and or their webpage at elevatorresultspt.com. Please give them a follow. The other thing I wanted to say was a quick shout out to Kathy Chang, who won rings in the last week. So, a little shout out to her. And as long as we're still waiting for Brian, I'm going to just announce that we had our first grandbaby today. We welcomed JC Clementine in at 11:24 this morning after 8 hours of labor, 6 pounds 12 ounces, and 21 inches long. So I'm just going to go ahead and start with your introduction, Andrew. And I see Ryan Robb has joined us as well. Um, Andrew Moreno, it comes to us from Fort Wayne, Indiana, now via Texas. I believe you're right outside of Austin. Uh oh, did we lose him? Hold on. Oh, shoot. No, 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 no. Hold on. All right, Andrew, I'm going to send you another invite. Hey, Todd. There. Are you there, Andrew? I can hear you. No worries. Trust me. We have some technical difficulties in Twitter land all the time, so don't sweat it. Um, Brian, can you hear us?
I can. Good
Awesome.
afternoon.
Welcome. Brian, please meet Andrew and vice versa.
Nice to meet you, Andrew.
Hey, how are you, Brian?
Great. I've seen you around for many years, so it's good to finally connect.
Are you the software test guy?
Yeah.
Yes, I definitely seen you on the poker Twitter.
No, I'm just kidding.
That could be a good thing. That
Oh,
could be a bad thing. We're
I'm
just going to
sorry.
pretend like it's a good
I'm
thing.
just teasing. No, I'm just kidding.
yeah.
Me too. I see Avi joined us and Todd Rizzo has joined us as well. Thank you guys. I was just getting ready to start Andrew's introduction, so let's go. Andrew is from Fort Wayne, Indiana. He, at age 21, was working at a steel mill and he quit his job on the spot after a near miss of losing his fingers. Andrew has a wonderful wife, Christy, and they moved to Vegas in 2006, where his 1-2 grind began. After some advice and coaching, he moved up to the 25-50 game by 2015. In the spring
Oh
of,
no, that
go ahead.
I was playing. That was 2-5, not 25
Oh,
50.
gotcha. Thank you.
Yep. Hmm.
Appreciate that. In the spring of 2021, Andrew told his awesome wife he wanted to focus on his tournament play. And let's just look at how that's been going. Oh, let's look at how that's been going. With over 4 million in Mob entries, Andrew's best live cash was over 1.4 million for his taking first in the 10K Win Millions No Limit tournament in June of 2021. What a great start to focusing on tournament play, eh? Since April of 2021 until May of 2024, Andrew has cashed 74 tournaments, which include 12 top 5 finishes. Very impressive indeed. Andrew, after all the success at tournaments, do you still play much cash?
No, I actually do not. I played today actually for the first time in quite a while, but um, yeah, I'm not opposed to it. I just have not.
Awesome. I appreciate that. And welcome to the show. We're so glad to have you with us today. Um, I know we have lots of questions, so we're just going to get at it if you don't mind. But first, how is your new baby? Tell us about your new baby and your family has grown by one, please.
Yeah, I know probably a lot of people out there have kids, or maybe you don't have kids, but there's a lot of things I could say that would sound really cliche right now. I can just say, like, personally, the big thing that has been like really kind of just noticeable and amazing for myself is just how much fun I'm having. I was aware of sort of all the like kind of obvious things that would happen having kids. People say it's like the best thing and they grow up so fast, all these cliches. But yeah, just how much I laugh every day. My kids are silly, and like accessing my inner childhood, being goofy is something that I haven't done in a long time. It really helps with poker. I had a somewhat rough session today. I came back and I was in my office, and my son busted in the door wearing sunglasses and was like, "What you doing in here?" Like, just like with a curious look on his face, wearing sunglasses inside. And I was like, "Buddy." So it's just it's been a lot of fun. It puts things in perspective for me,
Well,
especially when it comes to poker.
congratulations on that new addition. And is it true you were at a poker table while she was in labor?
Yeah, yeah, that's true. I mean, it was I played a smaller tournament for me, and you kind of like look at the due date, and I'd taken off basically about a month before the baby was born, and I was like, yeah, I can play this and it'll be done before the baby's born. And then she went into labor like almost 3 days early, and on the day of the day two. So yeah, I ended up going because my daughter was born 3 hours prior. I was at the hospital with her, and then I snuck out and snuck back once I busted.
Spoken like a true degen, and we all love it. But we really love the fact that you put that family first and made it there for the birth of your new daughter. And congratulations, Andrew.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Now, on your social media accounts, you have written, "I play game theory optional." Can you explain what you mean by that statement?
Sure. It's just something I thought of a few years ago. It was just like a clever play on word. GTO was kind of like a really kind of hot buzzword in the industry at the time when I posted it on there. And I kind of see myself as someone who like understands the theory, and I don't have it as my sort of primary strategy. It's optional for me. Like, I go to it if I need it. So just a kind of like a fun play on words, and it felt appropriate.
Well, and I think that that statement probably rings true for a lot of lower stake players or newer players that, there may be some understanding of, GTO, and they're still trying to figure out how it applies or how they're going to build it into their game. So I think it's really a great statement. I don't care what level you're at.
Yeah, I think it's cool.
All right, tell us, if you wouldn't mind sharing some of your knowledge base, some common mistakes made during tournament play.
Yeah. Okay. So, I think if I'm sort of talking in a very broad sense, which I think, is more appropriate for this setting, I would say that the first thing that really jumps out to me in terms of mistakes that people make is that they play too many hands too passively, especially in the early levels. Um, and it might not seem like a big mistake if you're like, I have a decent hand. I want to like limp in and see a flop for cheap, maybe, and try to hit a good hand and win a big pot. That sort of thinking can kind of carry you far in lower stakes cash games where people are playing very poorly post flop. But when you play a tournament, every time you call and miss a flop, or let's say that you're playing too many weak hands for calls, if somebody's raising or just calling a lot with like, a lot of sort of hands that would not be considered GTO with my air quotes, um, then what you're going to find is that you're going to be missing flops quite a lot. You're going to be hitting a lot of pieces that aren't strong enough, and you're going to end up just kind of losing, two, three, five big blinds, maybe a C bet. You call a raise preflop and a C bet, and then you end up dumping off, 2 to 5 big blinds each time you do it. Especially in the later stages of tournaments, this is very detrimental when you're calling raises because, the average stack in the tournament might be 25 big blinds. If you call two raises and two flop C bets, you might be down to 15 blinds, kind of looking at all or in full territory. So, while it might feel a bit innocent, I think people kind of, we are who we are as people. And I think that's very true as poker players. Like if you're not an aggressive poker player, it can be kind of feel uncomfortable to take some of those hands that you maybe want to call with and start three betting them or folding them. But I would say like that would be one of the best things that you could do, especially late in a tournament. So yeah, early in the tournament, like you definitely don't want to be playing loose passive. That's the worst strategy that you can play early or late stage. And then in late stage in particular, when the average stack is quite low, it becomes perilous to filter off these couple big blinds each time. So I would just
Great.
say in a general sense, that's something that comes to mind.
I think that's great advice. I'm sure many appreciate that advice. Have you either played or looked at? I had the opportunity to play the Savage Average tournament recently. Have you looked at that type of tournament or played it yet?
Oh no, I have not. Curious.
I highly recommend it. Right now, it's a low stake tournament, but the concept is really unique in that it's always based on X amount of blind or big blinds, and so the blinds don't go up. So, for instance, at this tournament, it was the average chip stack had to be less than 40,000 before the blinds went up. So we played probably the first 2.5 hours at 500, 1,000. So you're never looking at the clock. You're never looking at, oh, you're never sweating, oh, the blinds are about to go up because they literally go on, as soon as we lose players, then the blinds start to creep up. And then you have to lose X amount of players again before the blinds go up again. And it's really, I'm going to tell you, I loved it. I loved it. But I highly recommend you give it a try.
Yeah, that sounds quite interesting. I'm all for any sort of innovation in poker. I think poker has innovated a tremendous amount in the 20 years I've been in, and it's been all fun and different. And something like that, I think, would be. And I know Savage, he's a great guy. He's a staple in our industry. I'm sure he's thought this through. It sounds like it's really cool. So I would definitely be open to trying that. Interesting.
Yeah, I would love to hear what you think about it after you do. Recently, you and Lucky Chewy held an MTT strategy workshop at the Poker Go studio. Can you tell us how that went, how that came about? Are there plans to do another one in the near future, please?
Sure. So Poker Go is doing, they're starting an initiative to run some of these sort of boot camps similar to something you might see at like a Learn WPT, where, it's a weekend where you come in and we have a curriculum for you and there's activities in terms of things that you would do, like play and explains, or we sit and deal out hands and watch you guys play, talk about hands, go over concepts. We had, I think we had somewhere around 15 people, 12 to 15 people. I can't remember the exact number for their first one. They were definitely hoping to get more. I think the feedback was very good. The challenge that we always face in these sort of things, as I've run one of my own kind of uh, camp that I set up myself with all my own material, is you really want to find people that are skilled pretty similarly. If you get people that are, one or two people that are advanced, and then one or two that are not very advanced, and then let's say you get 10 people that are very close, you'll sort of be talking to 10 people almost all the time. And then two people on either side will just mostly be bored or kind of clueless. So, that's kind of the thing, the challenge that we face with those things. But I think they did a really good job in terms of the people that brought in all of the students, and we had people that were pretty tightly bunched together, which really helps a lot.
That's awesome. It sounded like it went well from what I heard. Very little I heard, but I still did hear some feedback on it. And you guys have plans to do it again anytime soon, maybe during the summer or no?
Yeah, I think their plan initially was to run them ahead of some of the Poker Go series. You see, like Poker Go Cup, the Poker Open, those sort of things. They're not entirely sure how they're going to do it because, as you may be aware, it's usually like if running it during the World Series might, for example, be a better option for them because of more poker players in town, that sort of thing. So I know they want to do more. I'm not sure exactly. They're still looking at sort of the format and how they're going to do that.
Awesome. As long as we're talking about training, I know that you do private coaching. Did you want to give us any info on that?
Sure. So the private coaching is something, I think anytime you get people that are willing to do coaching that I would say are like good coaches, it's kind of hard a lot of times to get the incentive for them to do it, which is why you see like these really high coaching rates for a lot of people. Um, I know I paid like astronomical amount of money for coaching myself, and I myself only really coach because I enjoy working with people, and because I have this sort of metric I use because I want to be playing poker at the top of my game, playing against a lot of these world class players. You really can't give up anything to these guys. So what I do is I try to get in a lot of volume, and I'm being coached while I'm doing that, and then I am coaching as well. So those three things, I think, when I'm doing all those three things together consistently, I feel the most confident. So I know that's a bit long-winded, but I don't do a ton of coaching. I mainly do it to kind of keep that intact. And right now I charge 250 an hour, and getting students hasn't necessarily been a problem. There's more people coaching than I can simply afford with my time. But I'm always, I think now that I have the two children, I might be looking to do more coaching, especially after the summer, because traveling and that sort of thing is more challenging with children.
Of course. And
Yeah.
I'm just going to give a little plug and then, Brian, I'm going to turn it over to you
Oh,
for a
sure.
minute. Um, I would just say to anybody that's listening, and we have a lot of folks that will listen to the replay as well, and we appreciate them, that, you're a crusher. Your brother, for some of you that may or may not know, Andrew's brother is Johnny Vives, who we've interviewed before. His lovely wife is Christy, and they are all crushers at the table. So I would not hesitate. And if I was not having grandbabies right now, I would probably hire him myself to work on my own game. But I would highly recommend hiring this crusher as a private coach. Go ahead, Brian.
Oops, wrong button. Um, yeah, so for that $250 an hour, do you include poker chip shuffling? Because my friend he spent $5,000 playing before he really learned how. So I was thinking that might be something that you might want to include. Just teasing.
Yeah.
Totally.
I mean, some of these guys are so good at this chip shuffling stuff. Actually, as I know you're joking, but I will tell you, if you see me playing this summer, there's a good chance you'll see me sitting on my hands.
Oh yeah.
That's 20 years in poker chip shuffling, and I don't know if you guys have ever seen Doyle Brunson's hands, and I just remember seeing them one time, and it's been a long-standing goal of mine to stop shuffling chips. So that's really the only way I've found to make sure that I don't shuffle chips.
Well, that's an interesting thought that you brought up. And, we're just past a 1 year anniversary of us losing such a great name in poker, Doyle Brunson. Do you have any stories about Doyle that you'd like to share?
Um, I mean, so when Christy and I first moved to Vegas, I mean, we were so young. So I was 21. She must have been 19 or 20. And I'm 41 now, so this is a good 2 decades ago. And I remember, we were just in awe of all the old guard because like they were the kings, all the Daniels, the Doyles. I remember Chip Jet and Karina Jet. They were sort of like friendly with Christy, and one time we went out with them, and it was like the coolest experience, just to be with these like real poker players. And Doyle was there, and we went to this. We ended up going to a Halloween party at Todd Brunson's house, and there was no necessarily. Noteworthy story other than it just meant a lot to me that Christy and I were there. We got to like speak with him, and he was so kind. And because Christy was like a young kind of upstart in the industry, she was an on-camera personality. And I think he just kind of he was already just such a seasoned pro, obviously, and he just made her feel so comfortable, and like was just so warm and kind. You could tell that he was a legend, and it was just awesome to be in that space. So I was very fortunate to do something like that. But that's pretty much it. I don't have any like cool
I
gambling
think
stories or anything like that.
that's a pretty cool story right there. So don't undercut it. Honest to God. I think, many of people have said that he was very hospitable. And of course, being in his presence was always a special opportunity. Go ahead, Brian.
Yeah, I don't know if you know this, Sherry. I might have brought it up when Andrew's brother was on, but my daughter did an interview with Christy back in the day. I was trying to find it. It's so cute. She asks her who her favorite poker player was, and Christy was very nice because I know my daughter probably said Danny Negreanu, but she prefaced it with besides her dad. So I think she probably skipped the me as her favorite poker player and went straight to Negreanu. And she said that Negreanu could win like 60 tournaments in one bracelet, one event. Yeah, so
That's
That's awesome.
adorable.
Andrew, now tell us, and I'm just going to switch gears for a minute. And I'm going to give Auntie Chardonnay credit for this next question because I saw it under a story she was doing. And I thought, I'm going to ask Andrew this because he just had another baby and, where he's at in life. I would be interested to hear his response. So the question is, what advice would you give your 20-year-old self? First about life and second about poker.
Oh, I don't know if I saw that question. Did she pose that to me and
No,
I
no, no,
didn't
no, no.
did
She
I
posed it to someone else, and I thought I would pose it to you because I just love the question.
Yeah. Um I think for sure the advice I would give to myself, and I mean, this is sort of like unique to my own experience in poker. Not necessarily like what I would say for everyone, but the thing that just really kind of immediately jumps out to me is to zoom out, because I think in the beginning of my career, I was so focused on the present moment and how things were going, and I was always placing so much meaning on individual hands and sessions, and I was making up so much about who I was as a person, as a professional, and my own self-worth, and it was like teetering on the turn of a card so frequently, and it was so tumultuous. And I think for me, just like having the long view, doing the sort of like right things and having the long view, if I could have done that in my early years, especially, I just feel like it would have been a much different experience in terms of having some peace because I had a rough sort of development in poker because I came up playing live low stakes mostly. And, you know, basically like when you're playing live low stakes poker and for me, I wasn't very good, obviously, when I was starting out. You're just like kind of taking the variance all the time of like however you're running. You're not making good folds or like great value bets that sort of mitigate a lot of the variance when you get better at poker. So I would say that that would be sort of unique to me, but I wish I would have. And obviously, it's much more challenging, when you're in the experience of that sort of thing to be like, oh, I just need to zoom out. It's like, I don't know exactly how to achieve that sort of thing, but gaining perspective is just such a powerful thing. And I think it's just really a practice. And yeah, so I would say like I don't have a certain answer for how to do that, but that would be the first part of the question. And what was the second part of the
And
question?
what about for your poker in your poker life? Like, what would you tell your 20-year-old self as far as poker is concerned? What would you do differently, more of, or
Oh man, and then this one is like again, I mean, wow, I mean, I can just really feel like how big this is to me because it's not only been the theme of my poker career, but it's been the theme of my life. And um, it might sound strange to you guys hearing this, but I just I was so risk averse when I first started out, and I was just so afraid to fail. I can't tell you how many times I would be playing. I was like one of the quote unquote crushers of 2-5 no limit in Vegas for a long time. I remember I was like winning $100 an hour for years or more, playing almost every day at the Aria. And everybody was like, "Oh, this kid's so good," He's like, I thought I was great, and I was winning all the time. And I can't tell you how many times I looked over my shoulder at the 5-10 game and thought like, "Ah, maybe I should play that game. I think I can play that game." And I was plenty rolled for it. And I was so fearful to take a chance because I was really afraid of what it might mean if I went there and I wasn't good enough or if I failed because I'd built this image of myself being this crusher or someone that people looked up to and respected. And it took me so long to start moving out of my comfort zone. And that's been the case with so many things where I was like, I needed to sort of like wait to be sure to make some of these bigger decisions in my life. And what I found is that like I'm not going to be sure. And once I've like intelligently doing things and paying attention, like, and my intuition is telling me to move forward, like I need to just act. And I feel like across the board, like there's so many things I could tell you where I have not done that and I have not listened to it because I was too afraid and I took too long to do it. Transitioning to tournaments was one of them. Another one was cryptocurrency was like my mentor was telling me about it, and I was like I was just so like lax about so many things, thinking that like, oh man, like it'll be fine, I'll figure it out later. And like I just had so many opportunities that I remember one time Jason Kuhn, we were playing like 5-10 or something like 15 years ago, and this was like right before he started going on his like like his ascent in poker. Well, maybe he was already on his, I don't know. um but I remember he was going through a breakup and we were talking and he was so personable and like and he was like, if you ever like want to talk poker, you like feel like you need, help or guidance, he's like, I'd love to talk to you. And there were so many things along the way where I just sort of like, yeah, I could do that. And I just never did it. I would just go back and just be like, jump at all those chances and like be willing to fail much early on. So I know that's kind of a lot, but I mean, it brings up a lot for me because it's been very prevalent in
well,
my
and I
life.
think it's very insightful. And, even for me, some of your words were ringing true. And I was like, oh, yeah, I feel that way about this subject in my life. So I'm sure I'm not the only one listening right now that is thinking that those words of wisdom are ringing true. So I appreciate that sharing. Go ahead, Brian.
So, what's your plans for the World Series this year?
Yeah, so the World Series this year is going to be a really interesting one for me. So, um, I'm just planning on going out in like 10 days and I'm going to play through a whole schedule. The reason why it's going to be interesting is that, like, when I started this sort of tournament transition a few years ago, I was like, I'm just going to, see how it goes. And obviously, it went quite well. And, I was like, well, I'll just keep sort of doing the same thing until like things don't go well. And then I'll look at potentially doing something different. So, in the last, I'd say, year, I've kind of stopped winning where have just been sort of breaking even. And I just feel like this World Series is kind of like, I kind of want to play through the summer and decide how I want to proceed after the summer, because I've been kind of just doing my own thing, playing on buy-ins and that sort of thing, which in poker, it's a very tricky thing to take all your own action, especially when you start playing bigger, because you believe in yourself and you want to bet on yourself, but at the same time you recognize the sort of capital you need to withstand a lot of the variance. And um, it's been stressful to say the least, especially because I have been playing bigger. And so I'm giving myself through the summer of sort of, taking all my own action, and then I'm gonna reevaluate how things look after that. But I really, really, really have tried so hard to just not be staked or sell action or anything like that for my career. And I've been very proud to never have. I did have a period when I, just real quickly, like the cash game thing. So the thing that helped me get through a lot of that was I got staked to play 510, and that experience being coached and being around other great players, I did that for a few years, and that was kind of the only time I was ever staked. But I just realized, and then I became a backer, and I just sort of realized how much money you can make as a backer when you're in a good situation, when you have someone that can actually win. And I feel like I'm someone that can actually win. So I've been very, very stingy in terms of, giving up any sort of equity. I know that's very long-winded, but so I just feel like I'm very excited about this summer, but also understand that, like, I'm willing to, start giving up some equity, especially with two kids now. Like, I'm not good. I don't want to put myself in a situation where I could potentially, put my family in jeopardy in terms of our finances. So yeah, I have a lot to really think about. I know it was a simple question, but I mean, this summer is going to be a really interesting one for me.
Well,
Well,
we will. Oh, go
this
ahead,
is this is definitely not Andrew approved then, Sherry.
well, we're
Uh,
gonna just say, listen, I'm just gonna hope I'm in Vegas at the time you win your first bracelet, Andrew, because I will just be cheering from the sidelines for sure. Brian, why don't we touch on I wanted to touch on something, a little bit of house cleaning again, if you guys give me a minute. Brian has reactivated his Twitch account and he's renamed it to Brian Pinker. No, Pink.
Pink, Brian Pinkus Poker.
Brian Pinkus Poker. Easy for me to say. And
Yes.
he is going to be streaming live when he plays or gets to Inkling too. He's hoping to do it daily for a while. So make sure you give him a follow, a subscription, or whatever. As part of kicking off that Twitch channel again, he's going to give 5% of his WSOP winnings away. He hasn't decided if it's going to be to one person or collective of several people. But what we're going to do at the end of this show, he's going to be doing a tournament. So people are going to earn their way on his Twitch channel into this tournament. But on my space and our space, we're going to do a giveaway that just gets you automatically into that tournament. And whoever wins that tournament, however he decides to do it, will get a piece of or the whole 5% of his WSOP winnings. Am I explaining that right, Brian?
Yeah, for this year.
for this year,
not forever.
not for a
Um,
lifetime.
and by the way, ASG is already in. I see him here, but it's good that he's here. Well, sort of for him,
He's a
because
blocker.
we came up with the other day. If he wins, then he's just like blocking other people out of the qualifier. So,
That's
so
right.
if it's just ASG at the end, then that's it. We don't even need to
Well,
deal
and
any cards.
I want to tell everyone that's in this space that this is for the people that are listening live right now. At some point, we're going to do a drawing on this show of all the people that are listening at that moment in time, and you will get an automatic berth into that qualifying tournament. So you got to be listening live. So that's where we're going with that. So let's get back to Andrew. Do you have questions, Brian?
So, a lot of people, I'm always cognizant of the fact that there's so many people out there that, play poker. You and I, we've gotten to go for many years to the World Series, but I always feel like honored that we get to do that. But do you have any advice for people that are coming out new this year to the World Series?
Yeah. So, I mean, I think my advice, I guess, the thing that comes to mind would be necessarily it would be good for new people, but also people that go kind of regularly, and that is to really think a lot about and be self-aware about your own poker ability, because something I said a couple of years ago that I just feel like makes so much sense is that, like, the self-aware in poker are making money off the unaware in poker, the people that are not self-aware. And the more you can sort of accurately gauge your own skill level, uh, the better off you're going to be at choosing the right games for you. So I would say, coming to the World Series is always just tremendously exciting. You want to jump into everything, and I would say really take a look at your bankroll and be pretty scheduled with it, and make sure that you're able to play the games that you want to play if things kind of don't go well. So what I mean by that is, like, if things don't go well, you don't cash many things, but you've already decided you're playing these certain events. I think that can be very valuable. And my comment around, making sure that you're aware of your own skill level is, maybe it means your first time out, you're not super comfortable with, your own skill level or risking certain amounts of money. Maybe you just stick to those sort of, deep stack tournaments around the $200-300 buy-in level, where they get these huge fields, and you still have a chance to win tremendous amount of money. And then you mix in some of the best, like, Friday Saturday tournaments, like the Monster Stack or the Millionaire Maker or something like that. And so, yeah, I would just say make sure, and maybe it's even like, maybe you're mainly playing at the Orleans, your first time, or
Yeah.
wherever you find that there's a good, so I would just say, like, try to don't bite off more than you can chew in terms of, getting excited and playing in a lot of these big WSOP events when you perhaps don't feel quite ready.
Yeah, that's great advice. Like, um, I think there's been some years where, those tournaments outside of the World Series, or certainly the daily deep stacks, are really, I mean, the VIG probably is high. I don't know, but they're just great tournaments, and you're not going to go broke on a couple $100. So yeah, I think that's great advice. Certainly, the larger field events or lower buy-ins at the World Series are good to play, and things like that. But it is crazy, Andrew. Like, you can on low buy-in tournaments in Vegas, you can really quickly add up to a really big number on buy-ins. So you kind of have to be careful for sure.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Especially if you want to fire multiple bullets into an individual tournament, it can get pretty bloody.
Yeah,
Uh,
go ahead, Sherry.
okay. Andrew, you've had 23 WSOP caches with 2 final tables. Can you tell us about those final tables, what tournaments they were, and what your finishes were?
Yes. The Monster Stack, I believe, was the final table I made. That one was one of the first big ones I made. Did I make another one?
Well, and I was trying to find what the second one was, and I couldn't find it because normally I would have the rundown, and I couldn't find it. And I
I,
was like, "Well, you know what? I think we'll just ask him, and if you play."
I think I only made one. I think I only made one, and that was the Monster Stack. I've made some near kind of final. I finished 28th in the main event one year, which was like obviously quite painful, quite painfully close to a final table. But yeah, I mean, playing in the mothership, like this was 2015, where you like they be packing all your friends and family, and they have signs, and like people coming from out of town, and like I was playing for $1 million. It was a $1,500 buy-in, and it was like, I mean, at the time too. I mean, I must have had like, I mean, I must have had like $10,000 to my name maybe, and I end up cashing for a quarter million. So it's like those sort of things that are like life
It's
changing, you know.
amazing. It's amazing,
Yeah, and that's the kind of the dreams that you hope for at the World
right?
Series.
Those are the stories we love to hear about, right? How many main events have you played?
I believe I played every year since 2012, 2013, something like that.
Awesome. And do you remember what your best finish was?
Yeah, I did. I finished 28th, I think, in 2015.
Awesome. I love it. We just, sometimes it's just fun to hear it from the person that did it. What's your fondest memory? I know you just talked about that. I'm assuming it was the $1,500 millionaire maker that you won a quarter million in. Are there any other special moments at WSOP that you'd like to share?
Yeah, so I mean, obviously, I've had like especially recently, things have gone quite well for me in poker. And I think a lot about like what I'm gonna remember when I look back on my life, and the thing that always comes to mind is just the people that are there and the people that sort of like reflect back to me all these like kind things that are sort of like, you know, just such a powerful like message to me that I'm sort of doing the right things or that I'm on the right path. And the big one for me was the WSOP main event in 2015 is probably the most emotionally invested I've ever been in a tournament. And I just remember like I got all in on day 5 with like 150 players left. I was on a feature table and I got ace king suited all in to aces.
Oh,
And I was
jeez.
like leaned up yeah, I know. I was like, oh man, last hand before dinner, everyone's kind of like leaving and I just leaned up on the rail and like my family was just holding me and I was like I turned to my mom and I was like, "Mom, I know you don't know what's about to happen, but I'm about to be eliminated from the tournament and it's going to be really painful." And I could just see her just kind of deflate. And I just remember like leaning back, looking up at the TV, and they're just like all kind of got their arms around me. And I just see the first card is a king, and then the card right behind it is a king, and it just goes like king, king, three or something.
What?
And I was like, and I just remember like we celebrated so much, and like my mom, my brother, my wife, and
Wow.
so many like these close people were just like, I went to dinner and I was just feeling like it was the most memorable thing that's ever happened to me in poker. And it's I had them in my sort of my corner along the way, and it's like I just the people, the family, like the way that your friends and family can sort of get behind you in these tournaments is so special. So that would be the top for me in terms of the things that I would remember.
That's a great story. Go ahead, Brian.
I can feel that.
Yes.
I'm sitting there
Yes.
like, oh crap. Um, yeah. So after the tournament and all that, what was your? I mean, here's the thing. Like, I think it's a brutal turn. I mean, most tournaments are, but the main event running deep like that, I've had a couple friends that final tabled and that sort of thing. Um, and they're kind of bummed afterwards for a little bit, but it takes some time to absorb that. How is that for you? Like, as far as did I mean, obviously you're not totally enthused about getting knocked out in 28th, but how long did it take you to kind of come around, or was that different for you?
I mean, it is a good question. I mean, in terms of, obviously, like, it sucks, but and it'll seem a bit odd to even say out loud, but it's definitely one of the most painful experiences that I've ever had in my life. Um, you know, I hate to say it because, like, it sounds pretty shallow and superficial in terms of all the things that I've experienced. Just to say that it's up there, it's not the biggest, but I just remember I walked out and, it was day 6 and they were like, we were hand for hand waiting for, like, I think we were hand for hand, but we were waiting for someone to bust in to go to day 7, and it drug on and drug on. And, like, and then I remember busting and walking out of the Amazon room, and I was, like, completely lost. I just wandered around for a while, and I remember some people came up and talked to me, and I was like, all of a sudden I was in the parking lot, and then I was like, I just was in a daze for a while. Like I had, like, lost a family member is what it felt like.
Yeah.
The color out of my world was completely gone for at least that night and maybe a day. Um, but yeah, I mean, that was hard because it was, at the time, I was a 2-5 grinder, and similar to the monster stack, I had YOLO'd my bankroll into this tournament, and I made, like, this run, and I was like, I had so many chips, and we're so deep in the tournament. The first place is, like, almost $10 million, and you're just, it could be a world champion. There's only a couple tables left, and I couldn't I couldn't shake it. It was so
Well,
hard.
and rightfully so. I feel your pain. Like Brian said, we can feel the emotion of what you're saying because we can relate to it at some little level. I see now, Brian. I hope you're writing down all the names of the folks that are in the space right now because they got to go on your wheel for the spin.
I got the wheel up here and everything,
All
Sherry.
right,
So
all right,
we're,
all right. It's not going to
we're
be
gonna
too
have
much
to
longer.
reorganize.
Yeah, it won't be too much longer before we do that wheel spin. But Avi, I'm going to give it to you in a minute, but I'm going to remind everybody if they'd like to, anybody wants to make any comments or or ask questions, please hit that request button in the bottom left and we'll get you up here on the speaker panel. Until that time, it's all you, Avi. Welcome to the panel, and let me introduce you to Andrew. Go ahead.
Thanks, Sherry. Hi, Brian. Hi, Andrew. I'm Avi. I'm a PLO grinder out of San Diego. Yeah, I actually wanted to share a story of meeting your brother randomly. I was playing at 7 Mile Casino and sitting at a table with your brother and someone else who he's my brother's friend. This other guy, kind of an asshole, this guy. I asked him, like, hey, are you going to the WSOP this year? And he looked at me and didn't say a goddamn word. And your brother, like, across the table, like, laughs and said, yo, I'm going to the WSOP. What about you? Like, started a conversation very kindly with me. And I don't know, like, it was just this moment for me, like, man, there are a lot of, people I don't want to associate in this game, but there's also some just nice and friendly people. So I wanted to share that anecdote. Um,
I love to hear that, man. I love my brother so much to hear a story like that. It, like, makes a lot of sense to me, but also it's just a great reminder for myself. And I will say that I pride myself to be a professional at the table, but I've had experiences like the one you just shared happen for myself, and it's sort of the fuel I need to be the kind of person that I want to be in the midst of adversity when I don't feel like being kind or when I feel frustrated. Because the thing is, like, we live our own first person experience, but being kind, especially in a moment like that, you know, it's just so powerful because we realize, like, through hearing these stories, like, oh, obviously, like, everyone else is living their own experience, and, like, you know it's just so good to get out of your own head for a minute and be like, do something kind and be kind, knowing that you're probably never going to hear about it again, and but that person is going to have an experience, a kind experience and interaction. It's so powerful. So that's awesome, and I love hearing it.
That is an awesome story, Avi. Thank you. Do you have anything else, Bud?
Yeah, and some comments that I really appreciated listening to you. That I'm someone who's kind of teetering on self awareness and being too self conscious, and that I think I am pretty self aware. But sometimes there's it's a little bit of a funky area. But you seem like someone who can really see how others perceive you, and how you're talking, and it's just really good to hear that, and for you to say that it's such an important skill in poker. I completely agree. uh let's see, I wanted to ask about hmm, let me choose one question between the three I had in mind.
Guess what? You can ask all three. We won't mind.
For zooming out and perspective, that's something I'm working on in my personal life. I guess I'll ask that question, like practices in your life that help in poker that don't seem like they would. For example, you said like being goofy with your kids helps with poker, which isn't something most people would think of. And like a lot of people exercise. I wanted to ask if you do yoga, because the way that you were talking, the words that you were using seems like you do. Is that part of your routine?
It was for some time. It's something I would love to get back into. I have somewhat of an injury right now. But yeah, it has been gym for me recently. One of the things I didn't mention in terms of gaining perspective, and it's just a bizarre one because, and that's why I didn't mention it, but for whatever reason, it worked for me. I just remember I went through this really tough time in poker a couple years ago, right before I went on my run, where I was quite depressed and doing therapy. There's a video on YouTube of me doing mushroom therapy and sort of seeking out this mushroom psychedelic sort of healing or whatever. Um, but around that time, one thing that I was doing to offer some sort of temporary uh, relief from a lot of this stress and turmoil in my life, when I was having these really rough sessions, so this was around poker, I would come home and it didn't matter what time it was. And I was playing late into the night. So this is 2, 3, 4 in the morning, sometimes 5 a.m. And I would come home. And whenever I would have these really bad sessions, I would sit in basically the living room. My wife and my roommate at the time were in their rooms, and I would sit out there and I would just start the movie The Pianist, and I would just watch it.
Great movie.
And I would just watch it. I probably watched that movie 20, 30 times over the course of a year. And I just like every time I watched it, I realized, and it's just to me, I think it's such a beautiful movie. But I just puts things in perspective in such a powerful way for me, where I was like, I could go to sleep feeling just grateful, and just like it. It was a bizarre one, but it worked for me. So that was one.
I think that's a great insight. Go ahead, Avi.
Yeah, I loved hearing that right now. And especially I use movies for similar purposes. Um, I guess about gaining perspective. That's been a theme in my life right now. Is to, like, from my childhood, I was very, like, it was just me. Like there wasn't the perspective from another person's angle so much. I just was pretty isolated, and I have a huff. I can see things if I put myself in their shoes, but not from their lived experiences. Do you have any kind of suggestion for that's like way more of a therapy type thing, but any insight how that can be translated, practiced outside of poker into it?
Yeah, I think that's thank you for sharing that. So the thing I think that comes up for me that I would share is that I think, I don't know sort of what your friend group looks like or within your family, that sort of unit that you have, but I one thing that I'm worked really hard to build is this sort of open communication with the people in my life, family and friends, where um, I ask a lot of questions, and so it's like, um, recently I had this argument with my best friend, and I was just like so sure he was wrong and that I was right, and then I just like, my wife is such my biggest cheerleader, and it was a sensitive topic, and I came to her. I was like, okay, babe, I need you to tell me the truth. Uh, like I need to know what you think, and tell me, like, you're not going to hurt my feelings, and you just want me to deliver it raw and unfiltered to me. And that can be so hard to hear. But I mean, I'm always trying to sort of check in on myself with the people that I love, like, and I risk going over the boundary often, where I'm like, I'll give my opinion or my thoughts, and I'm willing to sort of, and I welcome them to say, hey, I think you were wrong here, and maybe that hurt my feelings, or whatever. I just think it's important to always be honest and ask questions and make sure that you are listening to the people that are around you, because if they're really sort of used to telling you the truth, which is kind of, I'd like to think, how I've sort of conditioned like my friends and family in a way. I know that sounds kind of odd, but um, I just know that they're going to tell me the truth if I ask them like a serious, difficult question, especially something that might hurt my feelings. And I would really encourage people to do the same, because oftentimes the most uncomfortable things that we sort of need to do are like, those are the things that are, the most important things to do. So I would say really asking questions to the people that you really care about, and, really listening to what they have to say. And the big thing with that is that I've come to realize is that emotionally, like, it'll trigger emotion a lot of times in me. And when I get into this sort of like heightened emotional state, it can be kind of tricky to be logical, or like, listen, or like let it sit with what they have to say. So what I find helps for me is to sort of like disengage after I get that sort of feedback, and then just sort of like let it sit. Maybe I sleep on it. Maybe I'm in silence for an hour or two. Otherwise, I can find myself engaging in sort of a debate, or immediately going to a defense mechanism. So those are the things that sort of work for me, and hopefully maybe there's something in there for you that you might take.
Yeah, thanks. That was really helpful. And yeah, I'll let someone else take over questions. But what I was thinking when you were saying that, I watched this video on self-healing type stuff, and she was talking about intimate relationships and like what's actually going on, what's actually like love between, whether it's friends, whether it's intimacy, is like this ability to trust another person to help you with your blind spots, that through those conversations, like what you said with your wife, that she's helping you see what you don't and stuff like that. And like, yeah, so that's really helpful for me to think about perspective.
Awesome. Thank you, Avi, for your questions. And, you're welcome to ask some more, but I'm going to move on to Merv. Um, in just a moment. I wanted to let you all know that in the Jumbotron, as we call it, or the top of the screen, I posted a picture of my new granddaughter, my only granddaughter, JC Clementine, who was born today. And I've been getting some messages, so I just wanted to repeat the information. She was born at 11:24 this morning after 38 hours of labor. She is 6 pounds, 12 ounces, 21 inches long, and is doing great, and so is mom, because I just don't have.
38.
Yes. Don't even get me started, Andrew. It was induced labor, and they just weren't inducing fast enough as far as I'm concerned. But everybody's doing great, and I haven't gotten to everyone's messages, so that's why I'm doing a little replay on that information. So thank you. And I'm going to let Merv go ahead and ask questions or make comments.
Thanks, Sherry, and congratulations.
Thank you.
Grandkid. It's a big thing. And yeah, but I wanted to hop on and say good day to Andrew. I was a big fan of watching some of Christie's videos, and you mentioned one of them that really struck me, that one that you were so open and raw about the feelings of depression, and then the therapy being sort of willing and open enough to actually say to people, well, this is the therapy I've chosen. A lot of people would find that completely controversial, but I think that the way that you guys went through that video, it was just so open, so loving, and so real, raw, and honest. Uh, It really struck me. I think I watched it 2 or 3 times, to be honest. It was just so lovely to see a couple responding like that to each other. Uh, So yeah, I wanted to say big kudos for that video and having the balls to actually say, yeah, yeah, put the camera on. And you could tell it wasn't like, some people put the camera on and you can tell that it's like an acting thing. This was just so not that. It was just, you could just see it was real. So I'm glad I've got the opportunity to thank you. And Christy, I don't know, Christy was probably the main cameraman, but yeah, that was great.
Well, thank you for those wonderful words. I will also mention that I have gotten more people reaching out to me for that video than pretty much anything outside of like winning a tournament. And I think that what it is that, I mean, it's like we all struggle so much in life with our own feelings of self-worth or just trying to be happy. And, when someone kind of steps out and says, hey, like I'm not doing okay and I'm gonna try my best to feel better. It kind of like I think a part of all of us really look at that and think we can connect to that and identify with that because I found myself questioning like what was it about that video which I mean it didn't like blow up in terms of views or anything like that, but in terms of the response that I got, I found myself wondering what it was specifically that really kind of connected with people, and I imagine maybe it's something about that, but either way, like I try my best to I put it out there like I'm just a person doing my best and trying to navigate this world in the way that I feel that I is good for me, and I'm not ashamed of that. And if I put that out there and it rubs some people the wrong way, or they think this isn't good, or I don't like that or whatever, it's like I can understand that, but I want to live my life as I proudly, even in my mistakes, as long as I'm in the pursuit in a way that's healthy and in an exploration of my own self. If I end up sort of making mistakes, doing a wrong therapy or doing something, to offend someone, then I'm okay with that as long as that was my pursuit. So to hear that it has positively affected some people has been such a just feels great that we actually did follow through because it was a video that I was not necessarily looking forward to making.
Well, I'm going to piggyback onto that. For those that haven't seen any of Andrew's videos with his wife, Christy, I highly recommend it. They often touch on very delicate subjects, like before they got pregnant with their first baby, they talked about infertility and made some great videos. So definitely want to look at their videos. Go ahead, Murph.
Yeah, no, that's uh, and what was the gap between um, yeah, during having the mushroom therapy, the video, and then that that run you went on? Was it was it 6 months or so? 3 to 6 months?
Yeah, it was somewhere in that range, just a couple of months, maybe 6 months sounds about
Yeah.
right. Yeah.
So you went from virtually thinking, do I keep playing this card game that takes so long to play, that takes me away from all the people I love? Do I keep playing this game or not? You turn that around into such a fantastic run, and it's just to me it just shows how big a part mindset plays in having the right mindset plays in being a successful poker player. Really, uh, yeah, it was great to see. Probably just on another note, I did get to I bumped into you guys at the Aussie Millions a few years ago before it. Well, actually, I think it was the last one before they cancelled it. And I was wondering, would you guys have any plans of coming back? I know we haven't got the Aussie Millions per se, but we've got some pretty big tournaments traveling around.
Yeah, I was recently in the Gold Coast. Two of our good friends, Angel Guillen and Lynn Gilmartin, she's
Yeah,
the WPT host. We go visit them. Probably we're hoping to do something like once a year. They have a young son that's my son's age, and so I could definitely see us, making it a yearly thing. But that would be Gold Coast. I don't know if Aussie Millions will be back. It would be more of a like, I mean, Australia is just beautiful too. I mean, I love the country, so I definitely see us going back and hopefully making it a yearly
yeah,
trip.
right. There's plenty to see, and the Gold Coast is WPT's coming there now. So who needs the Aussie Millions in Melbourne when they yeah sort of got rid of
Well,
it?
Merv, I need to give a little shout out to you. You've been having us some good runs at the poker table. So congrats to you, bud.
Yeah, thanks, Ferry. Yeah, it was and got a day two bag. We play tomorrow, so
Good luck, bud. Keep us posted as always.
yeah,
Yeah, best of luck.
yeah. Thanks,
Love it.
Andrew. Try and spread
Love
the
it.
Spaces Run Good as much as possible. Anyone that wants to pick it up and share it, yeah, run with it.
Right on.
It used to be
All right.
podcast Run Good when I had a podcast, but don't have that anymore. So now it's Spaces Run Good. So
I hear you. All right,
great
Brian, do you have
talking to
any
you guys.
questions? Oh, go ahead.
I was just saying, great talking to you, Andrew, and yeah, thanks so much for coming on.
Of course. Pleasure speaking with you, Merv.
Brian, did you have more questions, sir?
Nope. No.
All right, I'm going to go around the horn. Avi, any more questions? He may have walked away from his phone. Brian, I hope you're taking notes of who's in here for your drawing.
I am.
All right, Merv, last time. More questions?
No, I'm just
Okay.
grateful to have been here and glad I caught it. I woke up especially at 10 a.m. here Saturday morning. It's my birthday
Well,
too. Actually, I interrupted. I was going to sleep in, but when I saw this was on, I thought, oh, okay, it's worth getting up for. So yeah,
we're glad you did, and happy birthday, Merv. That's
thank you.
awesome. All right, Brian, go ahead and give us a winner for this automatic bid into your tournament. Avi's
All
saying
right.
to pick him, pick
All
him.
right. Let's spin.
Anybody that's live in
It's
this
like jumping
space
around.
right
Oh
now.
my gosh. Oh my gosh. Sherry.
What?
Avi is in. That is so funny. Like, how do you say Avi? And I'm about to double up here in this tournament. So
I
there is
love it.
that.
You put it out to the universe and the universe answers. I love it.
That is so funny.
Congratulations, Avi.
And the things like glitching and stopping was pretty funny.
And
That
that'll be
is
an
funny.
early birthday present for Avi too, because
That's
his
right.
birthday's coming up pretty quick.
Absolutely. Now, Andrew, you have, as I stated before, 3 Crusher poker players in your immediate family. What is it like at Thanksgiving dinner with the 3 of you at the table? Are you guys talking poker or staying away from the topic?
Well, now that my mom is learning poker, it's it's definitely becoming more prevalent. She's mostly the driver of the poker talk, but yeah, I mean it's I'm like really excited for my mom to start playing because the idea was like for her to start playing some of these ladies events to start
Yes.
out and you know, but yeah, there's it's cool. It's so much fun. I love that we get to share that all
Well, I
together.
look forward to the 4th Crusher being born in your family. Your mom, I'll look forward to maybe getting a chance to play with her, as well as seeing you and your family this summer. We typically try to keep our space about an hour and or a little bit after, so I don't want to hold you any longer than that. We appreciate you and your time, Andrew, and answering our questions and just being the crusher you are. You're always generous, and we appreciate you.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Congratulations, Avi, getting in there now. ASG has some competition. I'm going to be streaming afterwards on Twitch if people want to jump on there. Brian Pinkus Poker.
I love it. Thank you so much, everybody that's tuning in currently and who's going to listen to our replay. We appreciate all of you. Have a great weekend. Give that baby and mommy and Miles a hug for me, Andrew.
Okay, you guys enjoy. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
Good night, everybody.